Should the Sun Devils go to the college football playoff? Are they going to the Big 12 title game? Signing days in a month. Not even. How's ASU recruiting doing? We're going to talk about all that today on this edition of Devil's Advocate with Richie Bradshaw as we talk all things Sun Devils football and more. It's game day previews, recruiting, and everything you need for your Arizona State Sun Devils. I'm Richie Bradshaw. Thank you guys so much for once again tuning back into the show. If you have not hit subscribe yet, do me that little solid. Hit that subscribe button. Turn on notifications, drop a like, leave a comment. It's always good to see you guys. If you know someone who's looking for ASU content or someone who's missing my old content, let them know where we are now and let's have a good old-fashioned conversation. So, we got some stuff to talk about. Things are starting to heat up as the season is winding down. The college football playoff is around the corner. We now have our second ranking. ASU is not in it. ASU is somehow in the Big 12 title race, by the way. And that's probably their only shot to get into the college football playoff right now. We'll talk about that for sure. But let's just get this bad boy started with the latest college football playoff ranking. And does the ASU honestly deserve a spot? Let's jump into it. So, ASU currently right now is not inside the top 25 for the college football playoff rankings. They shouldn't be either. That is not where a 6-win football team belongs. Right now, ASU is in, what does that end up making them? Like tied for 4th in the Big 12 with Texas Tech, BYU, and Cincinnati each having one loss in conference play. And ASU is backed up with all sorts of other teams. They're there with Houston, with Utah, with actually that might be it, right? I think that's it. I think those are the 6 teams that are contending. Yep, they sure are. 6 teams contending right now. 3 of them have 1 loss. 3 of them have 2 losses. ASU finds himself in the category with 2 losses. So it's not ideal for ASU to have 2 losses in conference. It's going to knock you out of contention to go to the playoff more often than not, especially playing in the Big 12 in sandlot football. It's what it feels like. It's not a conference that's very well respected right now. It's got more respect than the ACC has, and it should, because at least the Big 12 has clear direction with who their top contenders are. We know about BYU and Texas Tech, and we know of how good Utah's been. Houston's been a nice surprise. Cincinnati's been a surprise. ASU's hanging around. Like, we have an idea about the Big 12, but look at the ACC. Miami is off the face of the earth at this point. Virginia, Georgia Tech, Louisville, it could go a million different ways. I think Duke is still in contention to go to the title game. Like, SMU is there. It's just a jumbled mess over in the ACC. There's a lot of chaos going on, but we at least know what's going on in the Big 12. And quite frankly, I like the top 6 teams in the Big 12 more than I like the top 6 teams in the ACC. But, call me biased if you must. I understand if you do. Focusing back on getting into the playoff, though. You're in a difficult spot right now with not being ranked inside the top 25. And I've got some really bad news for you. I do not see you getting inside the top 25 anytime soon. You are going to be counting on a lot of teams in front of you to lose and drop down the board, because otherwise you're looking at a miracle to get ranked by the end of the year. Because if ASU wins out, they will be 9-3. Do I think you're ranked? Probably. I think a 9-win team is probably ranked in the top 25. I don't know how high. I don't know if they're top 20. But I think they're ranked. It also really depends how these last 3 games go, because you're not playing contenders. You're playing West Virginia, arguably the worst team in the Big 12, Colorado, another one of the bottom dwellers in the Big 12, and U of A, who's somewhere in the middle. They've been competitive, but they're not contending. Those should be 3 wins, get you to 9 wins. That's the first step that you need to get any kind of attention by the committee. Now, speaking on the committee, here's the most important thing to remember is the way that they are going about their selection process is they have said that not all losses are equal. There are such things as quality losses, and a quality loss will not hurt you as much as it would in previous years. What does that mean? Well, let's take Texas Tech, for example, because Texas Tech has 1 loss right now, and they could end the year with 1 loss. They could go 12-1, but their 1 loss is to Arizona State. Well, Arizona State in this scenario won 9 games this year, and they lost on the road in a 1-possession game with their backup quarterback. To me, that's the definition of a quality loss for Texas Tech. So if they were to finish 12-1 as Big 12 champions with 1 loss on the road with your backup quarterback to the reigning Big 12 champs who just finished the season with 9 wins, yeah, not only should that it would keep them in the playoff. It should keep them as high as possible. Texas Tech is 6 right now. They finished the year 12-1 as champions. They should not be outside the top 3. They should not be outside the top 3. They should have a bye week. For sure. For sure. So that's kind of what the committee is looking like. Because if Texas Tech had a bad loss to Baylor has been super middle of the pack kind of thing, that hurts your resume. And that's something that ASU is fighting a little bit. ASU has 3 losses. 2 of them are in conference. One of them was to Mississippi State. We all know that was the definition of a heartbreaking game. And quite frankly, I think that loss derailed this season by the national perspective because we dropped out of the top 25 inexplicably. Excuse me. Ridiculous that happened. Ridiculous that happened. And they have not recovered since. The image that people had of Arizona State has been ruined since week 2. The defending Big 12 champs, double overtime in the Peach Bowl. These things should matter, but the media proved that it doesn't when they dropped ASU out. But they kept Alabama in after losing to a 2-win Florida State. And yeah, hindsight is 2020. Bama turns out they're really, really good. ASU's still pretty darn good. But back then, that should not have happened. Mississippi State, it's a solid team. They're hopefully going to be able to go bowling this year. They're right there. I'm going to be looking up their record right now. I want to say they're 5 wins. They're 5-5. They have a chance to go bowling this year. They still have to play Missouri and Ole Miss, and neither of those are easy games. But they have been a much better team than a lot of people anticipated. They've lost some absolute heartbreakers. It is what it is, but that's a loss that could hurt ASU. It's an SEC team. It's on the road. It was literally down to the final seconds that you lost that game. It's a heartbreaker, but that loss carries more weight than Texas Tech's loss carries for ASU. And let's actually talk about Bama a little bit because Bama's resume will not be hurt as much because of that Florida State loss because it was week 1. Now, getting your losses out of the way early in the season, that's the time to do it. And honestly, if ASU was in a spot where they only had 1 loss and that loss was to Mississippi State, that's ancient history because that was a week 2 loss. we're moved on from week 2 at this point. But that's not where we're at now. That's not the world that we're in. Instead, ASU has 2 other losses. They have a loss to Utah, and they have a loss to Houston. Both of those teams are near the top in the Big 12 right now. They are contending with ASU to get to the Big 12 title game. Those are not bad losses. To me, those fall in the category of a quality loss for ASU. Now, Utah's a weird game to talk about. Is it really a quality loss for ASU when you got your doors blown off? Sure, you can take some circumstances into it. We did it with Texas Tech, so we should be able to do it with ASU. ASU did it with their backup quarterback on the road and in this absolutely intense weather to add on top of that. So, if we're going to give a mulligan to Texas Tech, who did keep it close, they did keep it close. ASU did not. I'm not trying to say that they are the same, but I am saying that if we're going to come up with narratives for why losses mean more or mean less, then yeah, ASU's loss to Utah does have stipulations with it. End of the day, it's a loss and it's a big loss. It doesn't look good, but is it a quality loss? I don't really know how that figures into it because you lost to a good team, but you got crushed. Now, Houston, that is a quality loss because that ended up being a really tight game for the Sun Devils against a team that ended up getting ranked at some point in time. And again, a team that is contending for a Big 12 title appearance. That there is, to me, the definition of a quality loss. Mississippi State was looking that way when they got off to a 4-0 start, but they're 1-5 cents. It hasn't aged as well, but it's still not the worst loss in the world. It's better than Bama's loss to Florida State. The Utah loss, that was a blowout. Houston, 1 possession game with your backup quarterback. Or no, I'm sorry, that was Levitt's last game. We didn't have Jordan Tyson. That's what it was. So if you're weighing the quality losses factor into it, then I think ASU is on the better side of that. It really comes down to how do you weigh Utah? Because a blowout looks really, really bad. But you got blown out on the road to a really good football team with a backup quarterback and all sorts of other weather conditions going against you. I don't know how much of a mulligan you get for that. And I am not begging for a mulligan. I do not believe in oh gosh, what are they called? Moral victories, stuff like that. Wins are wins, losses are losses, and that goes for these hypotheticals and if we were healthy, I don't care if you were healthy or if you weren't healthy. You rolled out there with your team, and quite frankly, you should be able to suit up and take on anyone if you're a good enough program. Again, I'll point to Texas Tech. Yeah, they had to roll out with their backup, Will Hammond. Will Hammond is probably one of the 16 best quarterbacks in the Big 12. He's better than some of the starters that are out there. I mean, it's not like Texas Tech was dead in the water when they lost Baron Morton because Will Hammond came in and played great football. ASU had to roll out with Jeff Sims. It wasn't his best day. It kind of is what it is. But at the point at hand, losses are losses. ASU has 3 losses. And I don't know how the committee would grade them. You lost to Mississippi State. Well, you lost to an SEC team who's better than we thought, but they may not be a bowl team. They could finish year 5-7. No one would be surprised. Those are 2 tough games for them to end the season. Okay. Well, you lost to Utah. Well, you didn't just lose to Utah, you got crushed. And there's no other way to split that. Houston, that is a quality loss. There's no arguing that. by the way that the committee has set up their conversation about the quality losses, Houston is a quality loss. So of the three, ASU definitively has one. I don't know how the other two shake out. Okay, that's a good start. Here's the other thing: you need quality wins. If you finish the season 13-0, right? Perfect regular season and a conference championship win. They're going to be weighed differently depending on where you do it. If you do it in the SEC, you're the number one team and you're the heavyweight favorite to win a national title. If you do it in the MAC, you should go to the playoff for sure. And I am not going to tell you otherwise. But the MAC 13-0 champion will not be viewed the same way as the SEC 13-0 champion. It's just the way that it is when you talk about your quality of competition and your quality wins, which leads us to ASU. What are your quality wins? Well, the one that we can hang our hat on and we can scream from the mountaintops is we beat Texas Tech. At the time, Tech was the number 7 team in the country in the AP poll when they came down to take on ASU. They, now in the college football playoff poll, are number 6. That is a huge, huge win. And it cannot be overstated how big of a win that is for ASU to have on their resume. Because if ASU is hanging by a thread and there's some slight possibility, no matter how big, that they could be a playoff team with 9 wins, 9-4. We'll say they lose the conference championship game to Texas Tech in this scenario. Compared to some of the other resumes, you would be able to say we split the regular season or we split the season with a win over Tech and then a loss to Tech in the championship game. And we'll say that both of them were close games. That's more than the 4th place team in the SEC can say, or the 4th place team in the Big Ten. There's definitely some value in that. And there might be value over other Big 12 teams because BYU might be able to finish out with a 10-2 regular season. Does not guarantee they get into the Big 12 title game, which that's crazy in itself, but that could be what decides ASU gets into the playoff at 9-4 instead of BYU at 10-2. Having that quality win, that is a huge one. There is no taking that away. I don't see any others. I do not see any other quality wins on the schedule for ASU. NAU, FCS, Texas State, they didn't end up being as good as we thought they were going to be. Baylor, same thing. Did not end up being as good as we thought they would be. TCU, it looked good at the time. TCU was ranked, but again, it just didn't end up standing the test of time. They're not ranked. They're 3-3 in conference play. They're not going anywhere. Not a great win. Iowa State, that's a tricky one. And that could end up being decent. The problem is Iowa State in a best case scenario is going 8-4 to end the regular season. They had a 4-game losing streak, which included a loss to ASU and Jeff Sims. So yeah, that win does not look as good in November as it did in July. So if ASU's wins, to me, there's really only one quality win. And it's more than quality, to be sure. It is more than quality. But I don't see much else. I feel like you have more against you than you have for you to make the college football playoff, which to me leads me to say that the only path for ASU to get to the college football playoff would be to win the Big 12 championship game. We'll talk about that more in a second, but you win out, including the Big 12 title game. You're 10-3. You're in the playoff. If you had 10 wins regardless, you'd still have a really good chance, but ASU has to win out because if they win out but they lose the title game, they're 9-4. Maybe, man, but even a 9-3 Alabama was left out of the playoff last year. Rightfully so, mind you. But if 9-3 Bama doesn't get in, I don't think 9-4 Arizona State is getting in. So essentially, it's win the Big 12, get your auto bid, or you don't get to go to the playoff. 9-4 should not be a playoff team. It shouldn't. Call it what it is. 10-3, that's a playoff team. More often than not. But you would get there for your auto bid. And again, I want to emphasize this as we begin to transition. It is going to be almost impossible for ASU to get into the playoff without winning the Big 12. They are not ranked right now. Their final 3 opponents are nothing great. So unless you're winning those last 3 games 50-0 in each of them, I'm sorry. It's you got to win the conference or you're not going in. And if ASU wins the conference, then whoever they beat, which for ASU to get to the conference title, again, we'll break this down in a moment. It has to be Tech, and I don't think you leave Tech out if they are an 11-2 football program. That's pretty much the only way that ASU is going to be able to get to the college football playoff. Can they do it? Sure. Will they? I have no idea. What I do know is their odds to get to the Big 12 title game are a heck of a lot better than you might have thought they were. So get this. ASU is still in the thick of it for the Big 12 title race, which in itself is kind of crazy to think because of the way that this season has gone. There have been so many highs and lows for ASU. They've had big wins. They have stormed the field, and they've had losses that were crushing, and you felt deflated. A 10 game winning streak at home. Goodness, that should not have been that hard. Was snapped this year by Houston, and that was crushing. It has felt like ASU season has been this insane amount of ups and downs for the team. And it's not a fun ride to be on. You never know if it's going to be a big win or a big loss for ASU. But somehow, some way, they're Randy Marshing it. They didn't hear no bell. And they are still in the Big 12 title hunt. And it is a lot more realistic than you think. A couple weeks ago, I talked about this, and I said, like, mathematically, like a 20% chance or something like that. Now, I don't know mathematically what this would be, but it feels better than 20%. And the reason why is some of the losses in the Big 12 are going in favor of ASU. Case in point, Texas Tech took down BYU. Now they both have one loss in conference play. Utah took down Cincinnati. Cincinnati was previously unbeaten in conference play. Now, everyone in the Big 12 has at least one loss. From there, ASU wins out. They go 7-2 in conference play. That is prime position to get into the Big 12 title game. Now, let's say that the teams ASU is competing with right now that have the same record, Utah and Houston, also went out. They are 7-2. That's tough, but believe it or not, ASU has tiebreaker. I know what you're thinking, and you're right. ASU doesn't have the head-to-head over Utah and Houston. They shouldn't have tiebreaker. You are 100% right. Not in the Big 12. For whatever reason, head-to-head is not the deciding tiebreaker. The number one tiebreaker is not head-to-head. Wrap your head around that for a second. It blows my mind. I didn't think it was the way it was, but apparently it is. It is about your record against common conference opponents. And right now, ASU has the tie-breaking wins with the common conference opponents over both Houston and Utah. Okay? So they got the edge there. We still have to worry about BYU, Texas Tech, and Cincinnati. At this point in time, we need Texas Tech to win out. If Texas Tech is able to win out and their final two games are going to be hosting UCF and visiting West Virginia, that feels very doable. In fact, I'd be stunned if they lost either of those games. If they can hold their end of the bargain, then ASU has their chances skyrocket. Here's why. They have that advantage with a 2-loss conference schedule, 7-2 over over Utah and Houston. BYU and Cincinnati will play each other in 2 weeks. With each of them already having one conference loss, that means that the loser is going to have 2 conference losses, putting them at 7-2 in a best case scenario. Guess what? ASU, believe it or not, has tiebreaker over one of those teams. So from there, you just need whoever wins that game, let's say it's BYU, to lose one of their other final 2 games. And if they do that, then they also have 2 losses in the Big 12. Get this. ASU has the tiebreaker over them. So, if BYU and Cincinnati can each lose 2 total games, I feel like I didn't word that right. If they each finish the year 7-2 in conference play, one of them is guaranteed to finish 7-2 because they play each other. ASU just needs one more game to go their way and to win out. Obviously, ASU has to win out. That's their end of the bargain. There's no room for error. They have to go 3-0 to finish the season. But if BYU and Cincinnati can both finish 7-2, Texas Tech finishes the year 8-1, ASU is going to the Big 12 title game. That's, at least from what I can understand from all of the tiebreaker scenarios that Chris Cartman has been going through, that the Big 12 has been sending out, and from what I can make out for myself and with a little help from ChatGPT to simplify it into English for me. ASU is not in complete control of their own destiny, but they essentially just need one game to go their way. That's it. One game that is out of their control needs to go their way. Otherwise, I mean, this is a surprisingly good spot for ASU. This is certainly not the way that I saw it going, but the competition has dwindled down because TCU fell off. Iowa State fell off. The pecking order has thinned out for the Big 12. It's weeding out the teams who are contenders and who are pretenders. ASU, whether you agree with it or not, is in the contenders category until further notice. And they have 3 very winnable games to end the year, 2 of which are at home. This is a great situation for Arizona State to make the Big 12 title game. 3 winnable games, and you need one game between BYU and who are we talking about? BYU and Cincinnati to go your way. That's it. Because they play each other, one of those is a guaranteed loss. One of those teams will suffer a second loss in Big 12 play. Then you just need the winner of that game to lose another game. Now, there's only 3 games left. And with that game counting, you really only have 2 shots here for these 2 teams to find one more loss. If BYU beats Cincinnati, they need to take on TCU and UCF. Both of those are at home. If Cincinnati beats BYU, they will host U of A and they will visit TCU. Long story short, we are big fans of Hypnotoad until further notice, because that is the easiest way for ASU to get to the conference title game. It also would give you the what do we call it? The common conference opponent tiebreaker, because ASU beat TCU. So if TCU can beat BYU and BYU can beat Cincinnati, boom. That's it. Texas Tech wins their final 3 games. ASU wins their final 3 games. ASU is going back to Arlington for a chance to repeat as Big 12 champions, which has not happened in God knows how long, because that's all that I heard all offseason. ASU can't do it. History is against them. Well, a lot of stuff is stacked against them right now. It's anything but a guarantee. But I'm saying there's a chance, and I'm saying there's a decent chance. Not everything is out of ASU's control. A few weeks ago, yeah, it felt like everything needed to go right for ASU, but suddenly quite a bit is going right for ASU. So for the end of the year, we're rooting on Texas Tech. We're rooting on TCU. Boom. Just like that. We get TCU to beat either of Cincinnati or BYU, and whoever they beat to beat the other, we're good. We're golden. It's simple, but it's complicated. Just let's go, Horned Frogs. I love the color purple. I hope you guys do too, because we're going to be rooting on TCU for the final 3 games of the season. There's no reason that we can't. There is no rivalry there. We have played them once ever, or it might have been twice. I think it's once ever, which was this year, and we beat them. There's no beef between ASU and TCU. We should all universally be fans of Texas Christian University for the final 3 weeks of the season. Let's handle our own business. Let's have TCU do their part. And by all that is holy, please, Texas Tech win out. Because if Texas Tech loses a game, I didn't play that scenario out, but I don't even want to know what amount of chaos gets thrown in at that point. Who freaking knows? What I know is the Big 12 is somehow still in reach for Arizona State. And that's just what makes college football, chef's kiss, so beautiful. 2025, really weird season for ASU. How's 2026 looking? Well, we're going to be getting a pretty good look here in less than a month. Let's take a look at the incoming signing class for the Sun Devils. So, 2026 recruiting class. We've got a pretty good idea of it for ASU right now. There's 18 commits. They've held strong with that number. They've had 2 decommits. Unfortunately, they were good players They lost Isaiah Briggs, a 4-star tight end, and they lost Nayland Scott, a 4-star receiver. Would have been nice to held on to both of them. But they still have their prized possession. They still have other high-profile players. And they have guys who can fill in big holes for the team as well. Overall, in the entire nation, ASU has the 39th ranked recruiting class. That may not sound that great. I understand. They do have the 6th best class in the Big 12. That does say something because the Big 12 all of a sudden has oil money. And there's a lot of 5-stars that are in next year's class in the Big 12. I don't know if you know, but BYU got a 5-star quarterback. Houston got a 5-star quarterback. Houston got a 5-star. They got a 5-star quarterback. I don't think they got a 5-star receiver, but they got a handful of 4-star receivers. Texas Tech has a 5-star tackle and a 5-star defensive end. There are a lot of very good high school players that are going to be in the Big 12 next year, and that doesn't include the plethora of other 4-stars that are coming into the conference. This is a big deal for ASU to have in the top half of the Big 12 for their high school recruiting class. And again, keep in mind, this is just high school right now. We have not added in the inevitable transfer portal. We'll talk about that towards the end of the show. So 18 commits for ASU, 6th in the Big 12, 39th overall. It may seem underwhelming. I think it's kind of... I feel like the perception when you look at 39 doesn't tell the full story. Deceptive is the word I'm looking for. But let's take a look at this class. So ASU has retained the prized possession of this class for over a year. 4-star quarterback, consensus 4-star quarterback, top 100 recruit, top 20 player in Texas, Jake Fette, remains committed to the Sun Devils. He is more than likely the future of this program. He was viewed that way when he committed, and there's no reason for that to change anytime soon. He is elevating this class because he is a high 4-star. I don't think he's going to be able to get in that 5-star range, but boy, oh boy, is he going to be a really, really, really high rated 4-star. He's one of the 10 top quarterbacks in the country. He's pretty darn good. He is... this is a guy to get excited about. They have a handful of other 4-stars. Now, keep in mind, Fetty's the only consensus if you go to the 3 main recruiting sites with 24/7, ESPN, and On3/Rivals, now that they merged. Oh, by the way, I go off of 24/7. That's my preferred. So they're 39th overall, according to 24/7. They're 6th in the Big 12, according to 24/7. Forgot to mention that. Now, the rest of these guys, it really depends where you're looking. But they are a 4-star and on at least one platform. You have running back Carday Mack, you have edge rusher Julian Hugo, and you have tight end Hayden Bircher. I like my odds that those guys are going to find big roles for the team. There's a really good chance that they end up playing into the future of the team. We'll talk about that again in just a moment. There are some other players who I think are kind of under the radar, maybe overlooked a little bit. Landon Anderson, they landed him as a flip from Oklahoma State. He's going to be something. There's a lot to be excited about with him. He's a big some, you know what. I'm feeling good about him. Landon Myrie, 4-star tight end, or he was a 4-star, now he's a 3-star, one of those things. It's bouncing all over. But another good tight end, someone that ASU was in on for a very long time, and it appears that this is going to pay off for them. with having such a committed young man. And then Jalen Williams, who was a 4-star nickel corner at some point. Now he's like a consensus 3-star. That stuff is always so weird to me. But Jalen Williams is another notable name. And there's several other players that I think we're going to get to know pretty well. But just from that core, you have the consensus 4-star quarterback. You have 3 4-stars at one at running back, one at edge, one at tight end. And you've got a handful of guys who are bordering on that 4-star status as well. My overall thoughts on this class. Again, I think it's sneaky good. I think the ranking does not reflect how you should feel about this class. You see 39, you're like, that's not great. I get it, but it is top 50. It's top 40. And even more importantly than the scope of the nation is you're in the top half of your conference. And at the end of the day, that's the most important thing. Because we could literally have every single Big Ten and SEC team finish ahead of ASU, every single one of them. And that would put them outside the top 30. That is what it is. But if ASU outside the top 30 because of those two conferences, if they bring in the number one recruiting class from the Big 12, that's all that matters. ASU's not playing those teams. They're playing the Big 12. Make sure that you're ahead of your competition in the Big 12 or that you're staying pace with them. And that's where ASU is at right now. So the 39th ranking, I do not think that tells the full story of the way that I see this class. I also see huge futures for this class. Fette more than anyone else. In fact, I dare say, go on a limb here, since Kenny Dillingham has arrived in Tempe, Arizona, Fette is the biggest and most important recruit that he has landed. High school recruit. We're not talking transfer portal, or that would probably be Sam Levitt or Cam Scadaboo or Jordan Tyson. No. High school recruit. I know he landed Jaden Rashada. That was a huge deal. Jaden was one of the highest recruited players ASU's ever landed. I get it. Jake Fette is now coming in at a point in time where Kenny has established himself. And Jake Fette has been committed to the program for over a year. Jaden Rashada committed to ASU, what, two months at most after flipping his commitment for the third time, fourth time, fifth time, whatever it feels like at this point. Fette feels like the most important recruit that Kenny Dillingham has had in his tenure at Arizona State. This is a class that has massive ramifications for the future of the program and the future of Kenny Dillingham. More thoughts. They're staying true to recruiting tight ends at a high level. This now will make 3 consecutive cycles that Jason Mons, the tight ends coach, has landed a 4-star tight end. We started last year with Jaden Fortier. This year was AJ Ia. Next year is Hayden Verger. No one on this staff is recruiting as well as Jason Mons is. He is one of the best recruiters I can remember for ASU. And he's doing this despite the fact that ASU's offense is not incorporating the tight end nearly as much as I would like them to. Like, they get Shimon Mateer involved, but I want to see Cameron Harpole. I want to see Kamari Anderson. I want to see AJ Ia out there. We're just not seeing them. But they're still getting these guys in. Jason Mons is a great recruiter and a great coach. And I have to think at some point ASU is going to want to get those tight ends more involved. After all, there's a lot of really good ones. More takeaways, more thoughts. Texas Tempe. That's a thing, and it's still strong. 8 of their 18 commits are from the state of Texas. Their number one commit, Jake Fette, comes from Texas. Their number two commit, Carday Mack, comes from Texas. Their number three commit, Julian Hugo, comes from Texas. Their best players are coming out of the Lone Star State. If you are looking to land the best of the best, not Florida. Florida is a great place to look. Texas is a great place to start. I totally think it's funny, but also somewhat true that whatever your star rating is in Texas, it'd be one better elsewhere. So a 3-star in Texas is a 4-star in Oklahoma. A 4-star in Texas is a 5-star in Oregon. That's just the way I see it. I'm a fan of recruiting from Texas. You give me kids from Texas, California, Florida, Louisiana, Georgia, I know I'm getting something good. Or I can keep something in my backyard. And speaking of which, that's another takeaway here. ASU is still really struggling to keep the kids at home. This cycle was one of the most frustrating I can remember because of how many times ASU was swinging and missing at the plate for trying to keep these in-state kids at home. Devin Fitzgerald felt like they had a really good shot for him. Nope, committed to Notre Dame. Tate Reynolds, a quarterback. Funny enough, he was committed to ASU baseball, but then he committed to Clemson. I don't know if that counts as a loss. You could, I suppose. Cameron Hamel. I don't think ASU was really in on him at any point, but he leaves and goes to Texas A&M. Dalen Sharper commits to Stanford. I thought that he was someone they were going to have a better chance to get as well. There were so many players that were in this Arizona cycle that did not stay in the Valley. And that is really frustrating because the whole point of what we're trying to do is activate the Valley. And a huge part of activating the Valley is keeping the homegrown talent home. ASU is still not doing that. Now, it will be interesting to see how 2027 goes. They introduced the golden ticket, which is designed to have these kids realize that not only does ASU want to keep them at home, but they are like highest priority for these kids to stay home. It is a big deal for ASU to go out of their way to let them know, hey, we really like you, we really want you. You gotta stay here. You gotta stay here. We do not want you to go anywhere else. And that's gonna be huge for the top running back. I can't remember his name. Gosh, who's our running back's name? We'll get there. But in the meantime, ASU is just trying to keep these guys at home. And so far, they just have not been able to. Noah Roberts is the player I was trying to think of. But they just have not been able to get it done yet. They've got to start getting it done at some point. Overall, the class feels pretty spread out. 1 quarterback, 1 running back, 1 receiver, 2 tight end, 4 O-line, 4 D-line, 2 linebacker, 3 defensive backs. Setting up for 2026, the way I see it is you have reloaded the offensive line. You're losing all 5 starters from the start of the year, from the beginning of the year, because unfortunately Ben Coleman went down to injury. You're losing those 5. You are going to be losing some depth as well. ASU is going to be looking at a complete reboot on the offensive line. So you're adding 4 kids from the high school ranks. That's great news. Just got to have that competition and certainly have some young guys. Tight end, still deep, and I love it. Carday Mack, the running back. This running back room is either going to be stacked or depleted. ASU can return every single running back on this team. Kyson Brown is redshirting. He will have 2 more years of eligibility. Raleek Brown has another year of eligibility. Kanye Udo has another year of eligibility. Demarius Robinson will be a sophomore. Jason Brown Jr. will be a redshirt sophomore. ASU can bring back every single running back on this roster, or all of them could find new places. I don't know what's in the future for Kyson Brown. Maybe he wants a fresh start after injury. Ralik could go pro. Kanye, maybe he looks at it and it was just not a good fit. He wants to go somewhere else. Jason Brown hasn't gotten on the field. He wants to transfer out. Uh, who knows? Maybe Man Robinson is interested in a bigger role somewhere else. You could literally have a depleted running back room, or it can be so stacked that Corday Mack is like the 6th or 7th guy on the depth chart. Going to be really interesting there. Then I look at the D line, and it just feels like this group all has a pretty solid chance to start. These guys will all have opportunities, especially at edge rusher. Julian Hugo will have maybe the best opportunity of any of the incoming freshmen to start out the gate because all your edge rushers are gone. Clayton Smith, Prince Dorba, Elijah O'Neal, Justin Wadley, all out of eligibility, all moving on. There is going to be a wide open spot at edge rusher that Hugo can seize. Is Jake Fette the starter? This is going to be a really interesting question that we will not have answered until we find out what the decision from Sam Levitt is going to be. Now, Levitt can go pro. He is eligible to go into the 2026 NFL draft. And that draft class at the quarterback position has gotten very messy because the guys that we were excited about to start the year, including Sam Levitt, but, Arch Manning and, oh man, who are the other guys who could come back? Lenore Sellers, the younger guys, essentially, who could have come out early are likely going back. Dante Moore excelled at Oregon. I think he goes pro. He could come back. So there's two ways for Sam to look at this. The first way is, hey, I was injured and I didn't have the season I want. I'm going to come back for one more year, put together better tape, and ensure I'm a first-round pick. Or he could look at it and go, there's not many guys I'm competing with. It's a lot of seniors. Drew Aller, Cade Klubnik, John Mateer. I feel pretty good about being selected higher than those guys. That's the two ways he could view it. Now, I think, and I feel pretty good, that Sam is going to return for one more year of college, go out on a high note with ASU, healthy, dominate, be a first-round pick. That's what I think is going to happen. If that happens, Jake Fette could be as low as like QB4 on his depth chart. If Sam declares, he has as good an opportunity as anyone else to be the starter because the quarterback room has no experience beyond Sam Levitt. Literally none. Cam Dyer has not taken snaps. Michael Tolson has not taken snaps. Christian Hunt has not taken snaps. Jake Fette is a true freshman. So if Levitt is gone, there is literally no snaps from the rest of these guys. Could make Fette the starter. Or Fette could just get buried on the depth chart. Very realistic. It's going to be really fun to see how that plays out. I want to round out with transfer portal needs, especially with ASU only having 18 players in this recruiting class and with a lot of players leaving because of running out of eligibility, let alone the transfer portal. And I do think the portal will impact ASU more than it did last year. But you are losing so many starters and depth players that ASU, who was not busy in the portal last year, I could see 20 ads. I could see ASU adding 20 kids in the transfer portal. And if I had to bet what we're looking at, it starts with a veteran quarterback. They're not going to add a young kid. They are going to add some kind of redshirt junior, senior, or graduate. Kind of like what they did with Jeff Sims. Because there's nothing on the roster right now after Sam Levitt. That becomes even more pivotal if Sam Levitt declares. It's going to be crazy. Put a veteran quarterback at the top of the list. I guarantee you. I bet the house that ASU will sign a veteran quarterback in the transfer portal. Look for a wide receiver, Jordan Tyson, 99.9% chance that he's declaring for the pros. Malik McLean's out of eligibility. The rest of the guys are all TBD. A lot of role players. ASU is going to want to add some guys. Offensive line, that's another position I think they're going to stack up on. It's a lot of uncertainty behind them, behind the 5 guys that they started at the beginning of the year. They've got intriguing guys that I like. I like Champ Westbrooks. I like Terrell Kim. I like Sean Naa. I like Jalen Clem. We don't know how they're going to look. Look for them to add some starters out there. Defensive line, copy and paste what I just said for the offensive line, but even more so for edge rusher. Their top 4 guys are gone. Here's who's back. Roman Petrie, who's been a backup the entire time he's been here. Joshua Shanklin, who's a sophomore, he's been a backup. Celesi Manu and Albert Smith III, who are each redshirt freshmen. That's it. They're adding edge rushers, and that's going to be a premium position for them. Look for them to add a big name guy. I could see linebacker, I could see safety, because I think that ASU is just going to value having veterans there. The linebacking room is taking huge hits. You're losing Jordan Crooks, Iris Fiaseu, Keyshawn Elliott, and Crew Jackson. Tate Romney is back. He just does not look like the same guy that we saw 2 years ago. Martell Hughes, I have a lot of faith in him, but they got to figure out some guys next to him. Safety, Miles Rouser is gone. I don't know what's happening with Xavier Alford. I am pretty positive he has eligibility, but he may just be ready to move on to the next step in his career. Also, Xavier, love you, man. Here's to a speedy recovery, brother. It's going to be a busy offseason for ASU, but the National Signing Day is around the corner. I don't see any of these guys flipping. They have all been very committed to the program, and they've been committed to Kenny's word of if you commit, you don't take visits anywhere else. If you want to look at their stuff, they have not taken visits. They do not go anywhere else. They say they got offers. They aren't going anywhere else. I expect these 18 guys to sign. I expect ASU to be very busy in the transfer portal. 2026 is going to be a really fun year. But before we can even get that far, we have to finish 2025, which is somehow not over yet. It wasn't over when the Germans bombed Pearl Harbor, and it sure as hell ain't now. Thank you guys, as always, for tuning in to another edition of Devil's Advocate with Richie Bradshaw. I will catch you guys on Friday for a game day preview as ASU prepares to take on the West Virginia Mountaineers coming off a bye week. I'll catch you guys later. Take care.